Our next speaker is, she believes that how you present is how you are remembered. She's a 10-time published author, certified life coach, certified leadership coach, and a certified image consultant who speaks, facilitates, trains, and coaches nationally. She has been recognized in the Tampa Bay Business Journal's Best in Biz and the top 10 business-oriented speaker at the top 4 or 5 consecutive years, and a businesswoman of the year. I can't speak. It's been a long day. These shoes are cutting off circulation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Debbie Lundberg.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, good nearly afternoon. And hopefully everybody knows that the word on the street is really that you all are dedicated, talented, perhaps a little understaffed and a little overworked, and maybe just a little bit underappreciated. Is that true? Yeah, a little bit. Well, you certainly deserve to be here. And first, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for all you do. You deserve to be lifted up because you make things happen. You really do. And when I was thinking about the honor of coming here to speak, it reminded me of what does inspire us. And it took me back to my undergraduate graduation. So it was a spring day somewhat like this, and I was pretty excited to go to the graduation. And I thought, wow, who am I going to hear from? And I looked and I saw that it was Lawrence Kasdan who was going to do the keynote address. And I thought, who? Lawrence Kasdan? Are there any Star Wars fans out here? Because you might know who that is. But I thought, who is that? And what am I going to learn? And you might have thought that when you heard my name and you found out I was going to speak today. You might have thought, who's Debbie Lundberg and what am I going to hear? And that's okay. So the point of the story of Lawrence Kasdan is he was asked to speak at the University of Michigan because in the 80s, long before his Star Wars writing credits and awards, yeah, the 80s, he wrote a book and directed a movie called The Big Chill. And it was all about the folks from University of Michigan who were his wingmen, so to speak, how he went through life and what happened through school and afterwards. And what he said that day, I took to heart and really thought about what he said. It was so simple and so powerful. He said, go, live fully, participate, pay attention to people and things. And I sat there in the big house and felt like he was talking only to me. And when I realized that what he said made so much sense, I followed it. And you know what? Before I delivered my very first commencement address, I wrote him. And I thought, this ought to be interesting, see what happens. But I wrote him to tell him that decades before, he impacted me and influenced me with that. And before I delivered my second commencement address, he wrote me back and said, thank you for letting me know how that impacted you. So I'm not here to tell you that the few minutes I have with you will necessarily change your life in the same way that Lawrence Kasdan did for me. But I'll tell you that I hope the words that are shared today with all of these terrific speakers shift you in some way. They positively impact your path and make a difference for you today and beyond. And what a great time it is to get to spend with you what I call you magnificent you. There are 5 things that are wonderful to share with you, and it's the perfect amount of time. You matter, you make a difference, you make mistakes, you make memories, and you make choices. So, number 1, you matter. Please know that not taking anything away from your service, because I appreciate it. Thank you for all of you for your service. Not taking anything away from that. You are now and always will be more than what you do. You are now and will always be more than your rank. You're you. You're a person. You're a brother, you're a sister, you're a friend, you're a mother, you're a father, you're a spouse, you're a partner, you're a colleague, and you matter. And when you realize that it goes beyond that, and it always will, it dawns on us at some point that everybody matters. And when we keep that in our minds and our hearts and our words and our actions, then we introduce, meet, and walk through life with others with that mattering in mind. I'm thrilled to get to have been an honorary commander, and now I'm the advisory board for the 927th Air Refueling Wing. Anybody out there from the 927th? Woohoo, big shout out. All right. So it is an honor, and I love the fact that we learn so much in all of the opportunities. Right here sometimes in this theater on commander calls, and I remember the thought of colonels and generals saying to us and in educating us, and perhaps some of you, that reminder that says the person who fills out the paperwork is just as important as the person who services the plane. And that person who services the plane is just as important as the person who flies the aircraft. So it's not about someone being more important. It's that everyone's important, and that's what matters. So, number 2. You make a difference. Oh, you do. The way you interact with people, the thoughts you have, the things you share, the way you engage and invite people or don't, it makes a difference. And as we go through deciding how we're going to engage with people, whether we do it consciously or not, it's all about how are we impacting people and the difference that we can make with that glance, with that smile, with the way that we interact. And when I think about making a difference, it's funny because getting to be an author and delivering commencements and keynotes throughout the country, it's part of what I do on a regular basis. But let's face it, that certainly wasn't always the case. My very first professional presentation came at the close of a summer from being an intern. I had all my data ready. I mean, our former presenter may have been proud of me. I had all of the things that were ready. And when I got done with it, I sheepishly went up to the only woman who was in the room, the person who I looked up to, admired, and I really considered her a mentor. And I said to her, "So, how'd I do?" And she said flatly, "I don't know, because it's so hard to listen to you because you look so young and your voice is so squeaky." And she walked away. Can you imagine? And I left. That was my last day at that job. I left and went back to school, and I found myself, like you hear in so many of these very vulnerable and wonderful talks you've heard, feeling not enough. And I thought, I'm not going to raise my hand in class anymore. Maybe other people think that I'm just too young and squeaky. And it really started to change the way that I looked at myself, and it made me feel different. But then I thought, wait a minute. I don't want to feel this way. I want to feel different from this. And so I started asking people, how did I do, or have I changed? And people started telling me, you used to be excited and you used to call things out. What happened? And I decided that I was going to seek out different things. And so I did, and found those people, like you heard earlier, those 5 people, those 6 people, and I started saying things differently and looking at things differently. And you know what? In the end, yes, she made a difference, that woman who told me that. But all the others, it wasn't the negative, it was the positive difference that they made. And so while they both had that impact and that difference, they both allowed me to be stronger. So knowing that this idea of you make a difference, it does lift you up. Let it. Number 3, you make mistakes. Anybody made a mistake in here? Jenny, anybody have anything go wrong this week? Shoot, you could have had something go wrong this morning, right? But the thing is we make these mistakes, but we are not the sum of all our mistakes. We are this accumulation of all of our attempts and all the things we learn from these mistakes and these challenges that we have. That's bigger than what we have done incorrectly. So the real question that we can ask ourselves and all of those who you're around is, when we do make a mistake, are we focused on the error, or are we focused on how to make it right, what we've gained from it, and minimally how to not make the same mistake again, right? So yes, we make mistakes. I can tell you that working for General Motors, which I did for 14 years, an assignment of mine came before there were algorithms for mapping, before there were all these programs for how to get from here to there. There was life before Google and Google Maps, by the way. Life before the internet. And I had this assignment. I wasn't a logistics major, but I had this assignment to take this huge map of the United States and to plot these distances for delivering parts to General Motors car dealerships. So I was so excited about it. I mean, I just jumped in. I was diligent. I even finished it quickly. I had all these push pins and all of these things. As you can imagine, I was thrilled. We launched these new routes, and oh, it didn't take long, and here it came. No, not the accolades that I was expecting from being such a genius with this, but instead, all these transportation costs that just skyrocketed. I mean, it was crazy. Things weren't getting places on time. The dollars that were being spent were outrageous. People were not happy at all. And so I went to figure out what the problem was, but I couldn't figure it out. So I'm going over everything, and I went to my supervisor, Ed Kurzakowski, and I said, can you please come in here and look at this with me? So I took him into this room where I had everything, and I'm showing him everything, my East Coast, my West Coast. He says, walk over to the East Coast, please. He's just calm, drinking his coffee. So I walked over to the East Coast, and I was showing him everything, and he said, tell me a little bit more about how you have that laid out. And I said, oh, here's Bethpage, and here's Philadelphia, and here are these others. And I said, and here's Portland. I had all of these pins right there. And he had that coffee, and he said, calmly, in a pretty soft but confident voice, he said, Deb, just so you know, Portland, at least within General Motors, is in Oregon. So I was bouncing things from Maine over to Oregon and back, and I was sending things from the East Coast to the West Coast. No wonder people were upset, and things weren't getting there on time. I thought I'd be fired. I thought, well, here we go. This isn't going to work. So I told him I would quietly and quickly pack up my things, and he said, no, you will not. I thought, uh-oh, what's now? And he said, you know what? He said, you're not going to leave, you're going to stay. And when you stay, you're going to do two things. You're going to correct these errors, and it's all going to work out. He said, and the second thing is, you will never make that same mistake again. So as predicted, I fixed the errors. I figured out that there were a couple of Portlands there, and it was a little bit humiliating, but a lot of learning there, and that mistake really allowed me to grow. So know that when you make these mistakes, they will ultimately lift you up. So number 4, you make memories. And as we think about the memories that we have, are we really living through what we're experiencing? You know, this is a memory right now, the very first LIFTx. There's this memory of what you're having happen today. You're already successful, and you're going to have so many more memories before your service is done. So I challenge you, are you going through them and checking the box? Are they blips and just blurs of what you're doing to get through things? Or are you really, truly present? Because sometimes it seems like if we don't post it or share it, it didn't really happen. When in reality, our mind and our heart, this is where our memories can live, and that's got to be enough for us. It really is being present and being in that experience is memory making and memorable, because at this point, it's different. So my grandmother is 95 years old, and I get to see her. Notice, get to. I don't have to. It's not that I should, but I get to see her a couple of times a month. And it's not the easiest path to get there. She lives about an hour away, and the residents where she lives love our rescue labs. So it's taking dogs there and getting through it. But after that hustle to get there, to walk in and see her face, and to see the other residents, and to have that engagement where they're really just enjoying. And it's not about proving that we did anything, it's about the experience of being together. Wow, what a memory we get to make. And so as I leave and go back through that process, it inspires to make more memories in the upcoming weeks and let being present be truly enough, because those are that story that we have. Now, number 5, you make choices. You chose to serve our country, thank you. You chose to join the branch of the military you did, and I know a lot of you are Air Force, so thank you. And even when we feel like we don't necessarily have a choice, we do, because it's right there in front of us. And when we think about the choices that we have and the choices that we make, how does that play out long term? Are we making the choices to serve now, to serve in the future, or a combination of those? As we make these choices, I think about, I chose to go away to school when less than 5 people left my hometown to go away to school, but I loved that. It was so much fun. I chose to work in a male-dominated industry for 14 years and head up legal and product delegation for the United States, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, not as a lawyer. You know, I chose to make a couple hundred skydives. I chose to, with the support of my husband, leave it all to retire at 34 and start a business on the cusp of a recession and have a ball doing it. So yes, we make these choices. And so what I encourage you with these choices I'll share for you is think about how they can not only make you the best military personnel you can be, but make you the best person you can possibly be. So first, choose happiness. People will try to squash it down, come with negativity, bring ideas that aren't worthwhile, tell you that it's silly, laugh at your smile, or snarl at your joke. But you know what? Let that be on them. And for you, choose happiness anyway. The next choice, choose kindness. Because kindness, there's a special thing about a person who is good, who knows about other people and sees every person for who they are. There's a door that's held open, there's a hand that's held tight. There's something magical when somebody does something for no other reason because it feels good and they know it'll feel good for you. So if people don't see it, don't appreciate it, and don't even ever say thank you, choose kindness anyway. And then choose integrity. Integrity can seem so vast. It can seem like, oh my gosh, how do I do everything right? And sometimes people will try to get you off that north point of that compass that you have. They may tempt you to change and go against your beliefs or your morals or your values. But when that happens, even if you think, oh, couldn't I just take the easy way? Couldn't I take the shortcut? Look yourself in the mirror, face yourself, and choose integrity anyway. Now, choose collaboration. That one might sound a little strange. Notice I didn't say competition. I didn't say compromise, but collaboration. Because when we work together, we have this opportunity, and there's room for everyone who's effective and good. And as we look through our lives and we talk about that healthy competition, think of it as cooperation. So if somebody attempts to push you aside, not include you, they want you to acquiesce or even lose to them, no. Take a look, work together, and choose collaboration anyway. So next, choose forgiveness. Forgiveness for most of us is the most desired state that we could be in, and yet for many times, for many of us, it feels so very distant. Because forgiveness is one of those things that we hear so many ideas on, so many thoughts, let it go, get over it. But forgiveness is something that we think about. It takes 2 to tango, but it only takes 1 to hate. It also only takes 1 to forgive. It's not about both. It's about, are you really doing anything to that person if you don't forgive them and keep them at a distance? Not really. What you're doing is you're not empowering yourself to have the freedom to move forward. So even when somebody seems absolutely unacceptable, undesirable, unrelenting, and unforgiving themselves, even at those sad, difficult times when that person is you, please choose forgiveness anyway. Now, choose generosity. Yeah, I know it seems like give money, right? No, give if you can of that, sure, but instead give generosity of your spirit, of your gratitude. Give generosity of your time and your energy, and see people to say thanks. Be generous in your words of praise. Be generous in your thoughtfulness, that you give them a little bit of a break, that you give them another opportunity. Because people often think that we aren't going to be generous. And someone may come at you and say, so what do you need from me? And you can tell them nothing. What may I do for you? And even if they're not sure, if you see something you can do, choose generosity anyway. And last, choose love. Choose love. Have an open heart, have an open mind. Give love freely and accept love, even if it's from someone or someplace that you don't expect. Because when we are able to let people know that we love not only others, but love the life we have, we show that gratitude, we show that appreciation, and we welcome people. So if you're faced with a family member, a friend, somebody who you work with, and you feel like, I don't know if we even like each other, that's okay. Choose to love them for what they can contribute. They might not ever feel as though they love you back. They might not act as though they hear it. They may never say, I love you too. But anyway, when you have that, please choose love anyway. So we have all of these things. You matter, you make a difference, you make mistakes, you make memories, and you make choices. And absolutely you are the magnificent you have, that you are, that you'll become. As a recovered perfectionist, please know that if you're thinking but, and you think, oh, but that's so good because I want it to be perfect. Remember that perfectionists live in two states, satisfied and disappointed. And they rarely get the opportunity for joy and surprise and, hey, that spontaneity, because it wasn't there. And so if you allow yourself to be a little bit less than perfect, then you can remember that how you present is, in fact, how you are remembered. So present with that, because you did not join the military, the Air Force, serve our country, spend your time, energy, and possibly yourself fully because you wanted to come in here and be better than someone else. You joined because you wanted to be the best you. So thank you for being you, magnificent you, and thank you for taking this word out on the street and lifting others up.